The Children's Bible, Best Love Stories, a Peter Pan book and record set. The Creation of the World.
In the beginning, when God made heaven and earth, the earth was without form, and darkness was upon the deep. And a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. And God said,
"Let there be light."
And there was light. And he called it day, and the darkness he called night. So evening came, and morning came. This was the first day. Then God said,
"Let there be sky in the midst of the waters."
And God made the sky, and he called it heaven. And evening came, and morning came. This was the second day. Then God said,
"Let the waters under heaven be gathered into one place, so that dry land may appear."
And the land he called earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said,
"Let the earth put forth plants bearing seed, and fruit trees bearing fruits."
And it was so. And evening came, and morning came. This was the third day. And God said,
"Let there be lights in heaven to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs for festivals and seasons, and for days and years. And let them shine also to give light upon the earth."
And God made the two great lights, the sun to rule the day, and the moon to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And evening came, and morning came, the fourth day. And God said,
"Let the waters be filled with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth."
Then God created the great sea monsters and all living creatures that move in the waters, and every kind of bird. And God blessed them, saying,
"Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds increase on land."
And evening came, and morning came, the fifth day. And God said,
"Let the earth bring forth living creatures, cattle and creeping things, and all the animals of the earth."
Then God said,
"Let us create man in our image, to rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the animals of the earth, and the things that creep upon the ground."
So God created mankind in his own image. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them and said to them,
"Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food."
And God looked upon all that he had made, and saw that it was very good. And evening came, and morning came, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, with all their mighty throng. On the seventh day, God rested from all his work, and he blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on that day he ceased from the work he had set out to do.
Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
In the first days, when God made heaven and earth, he formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed life into him. And Adam was his name. And God planted a garden eastward in Eden, with fruit trees and berry bushes that were pleasant to look upon and good to eat. And there he put Adam. And God said to him,
You may eat freely of every tree in the garden, except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. On the day you eat of it, you shall die.
The garden was filled with birds and animals, but Adam was all alone. And God said,
I will give him a partner.
So God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. And while he slept, God took one of his ribs and closed up the place with flesh. And from the rib he made a woman, Eve. And Adam took her in his arms, saying,
You are bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh.
And they were happy together. But there was a serpent in the garden, and he was more crafty than any wild creature the Lord God had made. And one day, when Eve stood near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the serpent crept up and said,
The tree has beautiful fruit. Eat some.
Oh, no. God said if we did, we would die.
You won't die. Instead, your eyes will be opened, and you'll be like God. You'll know the difference between right and wrong. Go ahead, Eve. Do it.
And Eve took a fruit from the tree and ate it. And she gave some to Adam, and he ate it too. And their eyes were opened. They knew they had done wrong. And then they heard the sound of the Lord God in the garden, and they tried to hide. But God saw them and called out,
Have you eaten from the tree I told you was forbidden?
The woman you gave me for a companion, Lord. She gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate it.
Eve, did you eat too?
Yes, Lord. The serpent tricked me.
And the Lord was angered. And to Adam he said,
Because of what you have done, the ground is cursed. Now you will have to work to win food from it. All the days of your life, until you return to the ground that you came from. Dust you are, and to dust you shall return.
And then God drove Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden to earn their bread by hard work from that time on. And the way back was barred to them forever.
Cain and Abel.
Long, long ago, after Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, they had two sons. The first they called Cain, and when he grew up, he became a farmer. The second son was named Abel, and he became a shepherd, tending a flock of sheep. One day, as was the custom in those times, Cain and Abel gave gifts to God as they prayed to him. Abel's gift was some newborn lambs, the best of the flock, and this was pleasing to God. Cain's present was some fruits and vegetables he had raised, and God was not pleased and did not accept the gift. Cain was angered, and God said to him,
Why are you so angry and cast down? Don't you know that when you do the right thing, you will please me?
But Cain made no answer to God. Instead, he said to his brother,
Let's go back now, Abel, out to the fields.
And Abel went with Cain. But when they got there, Cain picked a quarrel and struck his brother. Cain knocked Abel down, and when he tried to get up, Cain struck him with a rock and killed him. Then Cain covered Abel with stones to hide his body and ran away. But God was watching, and he said,
Cain, where is your brother Abel?
I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?
What have you done, Cain? What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me. You are cursed now. You shall be a fugitive, a wanderer, and the land will no longer yield you its wealth. It shall yield you nothing.
Oh, Lord, this punishment is too heavy. You are driving me from my land, making me a fugitive. Any man who sees me will have the right to kill me.
It will not be so.
And God put a mark on Cain to warn any man who met him, saying,
If anyone raises a hand against Cain to kill him, vengeance shall be taken against him 7 times.
Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord, and he lived as a wanderer east of Eden.
Noah's Ark.
This is the story of Noah. He was a good man, a man who did right in the sight of God at a time when most men did wrong. And the Lord said to Noah,
The earth is filled with violence because men have grown so evil. I will destroy them, all but you and your family. Now hear me. Build an ark of cypress wood, with a door in its side and 3 decks. For I shall bring a flood of waters, and everything that is on the earth shall die. But you shall come into the ark, with your wife and your sons and their wives also. And you shall bring with you 2 of every living thing on earth, birds, animals, and creeping things, and food for you and for them. Do as I bid, and you shall live.
I hear, Lord, and I obey.
With the help of his 3 sons, Noah did what God had commanded. The ark was built, and God told Noah to go on board with his family, with 2 of every creature that lived, saying,
I will send rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and every living thing that I have made and that is left upon the ground will be blotted out.
And again Noah did as God had commanded. Then all the fountains of the deep burst forth. And the heavens opened, and rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And the waters rose higher and higher until they reached the ark and carried it away. Then the waters rose still higher until all the mountains were covered. Every man and every living thing that moved upon the earth was blotted out. Only Noah was left, and those that were with him on the ark.
Noah, what's going to happen now?
The Lord will take care of us.
How? When? We've been drifting a long time, Noah. We're starting to run out of food.
The Lord knows that. He will not forget us.
God remembered Noah and those on the ark. He caused the rains to end. And slowly the level of the waters went down over the face of the earth. And one day, 5 whole months after the ark had first floated away, it came to rest on a mountain peak in Ararat. Then Noah waited 40 days, praying for the waters to go down still further. And then he sent out a raven. But the raven found no place to land, so it came back to the ark. Later Noah sent out a dove. It too returned.
Now what are we going to do?
Wait and trust in the Lord.
Noah waited 7 days, and again he sent out a dove. And that evening...
Look, Noah, off to the right. The dove's coming back again.
I see her. And look what she has in her beak. An olive leaf. The waters are going down.
And they did. The waters were dried up from the face of the earth. And Noah came down out of the ark, and the animals came forth 2 by 2, every beast, every bird, everything that moves upon the earth. And Noah built an altar to the Lord and offered his thanks. And God was pleased. And he said,
I make you a promise. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And this is the sign of my promise. For all future time, my rainbow in the cloud.
And Noah looked up, and there it was, in all its glory.
A rainbow. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for your promise that life shall not perish from the earth.
Abraham's sacrifice.
Long ago in Chaldea, in what is now the land of Iraq, there lived a man named Abram with his wife Sarai. Rich he was with great herds of sheep and goats, but he had no children. Then one day the Lord said to him,
Go from your country to the land that I will show you. I will bless you, and I will make of you a great nation.
And Abram did as the Lord had told him. He went down into the land of Canaan with his wife and his household, his flocks and his herds. Then one night, in a vision, the word of the Lord came to Abram, saying,
Have no fear. Your reward shall be very great.
What reward can you give me, O Lord? I am old. I have no children. My servants shall inherit all I have.
No, a son of your body shall inherit it. I give you this promise. I will make you the father of nations. Kings will be born unto you, and this land will be yours forever. You shall no longer be Abram. Your name shall be Abraham. Your wife, Sarah. Obey my laws.
The vision faded, but the Lord's promise remained ever in Abraham's mind. Then one day, as he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the summer, he looked up, and behold, 3 men suddenly stood before him. Somehow he knew they were no ordinary men, but messengers of the Lord, and he hastened to serve them food and drink. And one asked of him,
Where is Sarah, your wife?
There, in the tent, alone.
Next spring she will not be alone. She shall have a son.
Sarah, listening in the tent, laughed to herself, saying,
A son? Impossible. I'm too old.
And God heard her and said,
Is anything impossible for the Lord?
And the months passed, and spring came, and the Lord did as he had promised. Sarah bore Abraham a son, and he was named Isaac, which means he laughed. And Sarah said,
God has made laughter for me.
The baby grew straight and strong. Then, sometime after, God decided to put Abraham's faith to the test.
Take your son, your only son whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him up as a sacrifice to me on the mountain.
What God had told him to do, Abraham did, though his heart was heavy. Early the next morning, he rose up and took his son and set out for Moriah. When they reached the mountain, Abraham built an altar of stones. Then he cut some firewood. The boy watched and wondered.
Father, I see the wood, and I know you have fire, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?
Lord, the Lord God, blessed be his name. He will provide the sacrifice.
How, Father? Where?
We will see. We will see.
And Abraham took the boy and lay him down upon the wood and drew a long knife from inside his robe. Isaac stared, too frightened to cry out. Then, as Abraham raised the knife,
Stop! Do nothing to the boy. I know now that you do love and fear God, because you have not withheld your son from me. Now I will indeed bless you. Your descendants will be as many as the stars of heaven, as many as the grains of sand on the shore, because you have obeyed me.
And Abraham looked up. He saw a ram caught in a thicket. Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up to God instead of his son.
Father?
Yes, my son. What is it, my own?
Can we go home now?
Yes, Isaac. Yes.
Jacob and Esau.
In Canaan, the boy Isaac grew to manhood, remembering God's promise to Abraham, his father.
Keep my laws, and I will bless you. Your people will be as many as the stars in heaven, and this land will be yours forever.
Isaac married late in life, and his wife Rebekah gave him twin sons, Esau, who roamed the woods and became a mighty hunter, and Jacob, who stayed at home and tended the flocks. Now Esau was Isaac's favorite, but Rebekah loved Jacob more, and she hoped to see him the head of the family. Years passed, and then suddenly it seemed the time had come. For Isaac had grown old and blind and very feeble, and he sent for Esau, saying,
My son, I think I am dying.
No, Father, no. You'll get well again, I know it.
Esau, listen. I have only a little time. So go now and hunt down a deer for me, and make me a stew of its meat, the way you know how to do it. And I will eat it, and then, if God spares me, I will give you my final blessing. Go, my son.
Yes, Father.
Rebekah heard what Isaac had said, and she knew what it meant. If Isaac gave Esau his final blessing, then he would get everything Isaac owned, and Jacob, her favorite, would get nothing. So she went to Jacob and commanded him to take a young goat from the flock and kill it and bring its meat to her for a stew.
And you, Jacob, you shall serve it to your father, and his blessing will be given not to Esau, but to you.
But, Mother, that isn't right. Besides, he'll see that it's me.
Your father cannot see.
But he'll touch my hand, and then he'll know. Because Esau is hairy all over, and my skin is smooth.
Do as I say, my son. Your father will take you for Esau. I'll see to that. Now, here's all you have to do.
And Jacob did as his mother commanded. He killed a young goat, and she made a stew of its meat, and with its hairy skin she covered Jacob's hands. And she dressed him in Esau's clothes. And Jacob brought the food to Isaac his father. And the blind old man said,
Which of my sons are you?
I am Esau. I have done as you asked. Eat of my stew, and then, if that is your wish, give me your blessing.
Come closer. Let me touch you.
Yes, Father.
Strange.
What, Father?
The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
Jacob trembled. But the next moment, Isaac reached out and took him in his arms. And when Isaac smelled the outdoors smell of his clothes, Esau's clothes, the old man was sure this was his favorite son. And to Jacob he gave his final blessing. And Jacob went away. But then, a short time later, Esau returned home with the deer he had hunted and killed. He cooked its meat and brought it to his father. And Isaac said,
What is this? Who are you?
Esau, Father. I am Esau.
I should have known. Jacob tricked me. And you too, my son.
Tricked me? How?
He let me think he was you. And I gave him my final blessing. I am sorry, my son. But when I die, Jacob will be the head of the house. He will have rule over you.
For that was the law of the time. The blessing could not be taken back. Knowing this, Esau grew angrier and angrier as the days passed, and Rebekah feared he would raise his mighty arm against his brother. So she sent Jacob away to the north. There he remained for many years, and married, and prospered. And God was good to Esau also. He became the head of a family of his own, with many children and great herds of sheep and cattle. Then the day came, long years after, that the two brothers met once again. Jacob feared for his life and all his possessions. But Esau took Jacob into his arms and forgave him for the wrong he had done, saying,
Keep what is yours, my brother. I have more than enough of my own.
The coat of many colors.
Now Abraham was father to Isaac, and Isaac was father to Jacob in the land of Canaan. And Jacob had 12 sons. His favorite was Joseph. Jacob loved him above all his brothers, and had a fine coat made for him, one of many colors. And Joseph showed it to his brothers, saying,
Look what Father gave me. Isn't it a fine coat?
Oh, yes. Finer than anything he ever gave us.
That's right. Joseph always gets the best of everything.
It's not my fault.
Oh, no? Go away, Joseph.
You heard him. Leave us alone.
I had a dream last night. Don't you want to hear it?
Another dream? Go away.
But this was very special. I dreamed we were all in the field together, binding sheaves of corn, and my sheaf stood up on one end.
What's so special about that?
Well, all of your sheaves gathered around my sheaf and bowed down before it.
I see. And that means, I suppose, that someday you will be a king and rule over all of us? Go away, boy, go away.
And take your fine coat with you.
One day soon after, when Joseph's brothers were away tending the flocks, Jacob told him to go out in the hills and see how they were doing, and then return home with word of them. And Joseph set out as he was commanded. But his brothers saw him coming, and one said,
Here comes the dreamer again. Now's our chance to get rid of him, before our father sets him up to rule over us.
Good. Let's kill him.
No! I don't like him any more than you do. But he is our brother. We mustn't do him any harm.
Shut your mouth, Reuben. We'll do it our way.
But the brothers at last listened to Reuben. And when Joseph came up to them, instead of killing him, they only stripped off his fine coat and dropped him down a deep, empty well from which there was no way to climb out.
Help me! Please help me!
Then the brothers went away. It was Reuben's plan, though, to come back later and lift Joseph out. But in the meantime, a caravan of merchants passed by the well.
Help! Help!
And they hauled Joseph out and carried him away. So when Reuben returned, Joseph was gone. And he went to his brothers, saying,
What are we to do? What shall we tell our father?
Joseph's brothers took his coat of many colors and killed a goat and smeared the blood all over it. Then they tore the coat as if a mountain lion had done it. And they brought it home to Jacob, saying,
Look, Father. Look what we have found.
Joseph's coat! The coat I gave him! A wild beast did this. Oh, my son, my son. My Joseph torn to pieces. I will go to my grave mourning you, Joseph, my son.
But Joseph was not dead. The merchants had carried him to Egypt, where they sold him to Potiphar, the chief captain of the Pharaoh, all-powerful ruler of Egypt. But the day was to come, years later, when Jacob was reunited with Joseph, the son he thought he had lost forever.
Joseph in Egypt.
This is the story of Joseph of Canaan, who was stolen out of his homeland and was sold to Potiphar, a captain in the army of Pharaoh, ruler of Egypt. Now Joseph was a young man, as wise as he was handsome, for God was with him, and Potiphar was pleased with Joseph and put him in charge of his household. But Potiphar's wife fell in love with Joseph, and when he would have nothing to do with her, she grew angry and went to Potiphar, saying,
Your slave has insulted me. Punish him.
And Potiphar believed his wife, and Joseph was arrested and thrown into prison. And time passed, and it seemed that God had turned his face away from Joseph, but it was not so. For one day, Pharaoh's chief steward was brought in as a prisoner because he had done some wrong. And this man became friends with Joseph, and one morning he said to him,
I had a dream last night, Joseph, and it worries me.
Why?
Because I can't understand it. In Pharaoh's court, there were magicians who could have told me what it meant, but here...
Perhaps I can help you. Tell me your dream.
Well, I dreamt I was a vine with 3 branches laden with grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I squeezed the grapes into the cup and gave it to Pharaoh. Joseph, what do you make of it?
The 3 branches mean that in 3 days, Pharaoh will forgive you and set you free.
And it was so. In 3 days, the steward was set free and restored to his place in the palace. Joseph remained in prison. Then one night, years later, Pharaoh himself was troubled by dreams, and his magicians were not able to explain them. Then the steward remembered Joseph, and he told Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said,
"Bring the Hebrew slave before me."
And Joseph was brought forth out of prison. And Pharaoh said,
"Hear my dream, and for your life, tell me what it means."
By myself I cannot, but God will give Pharaoh the answer.
We will see. This was my dream. I was standing on the banks of a river, and 7 fat cows came up and fed on the grass. Then 7 thin cows came after them and fell on the fat cows and ate them up. Later, I had another dream. I saw 7 full ears of corn on one stalk, and on another stalk, 7 thin ears. And the thin ears swallowed up the good ones. Well, Joseph?
God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do.
And what is that?
The 7 fat cows and the 7 full ears of corn mean that 7 years of plenty are coming to Egypt. But the thin cows and the thin ears of corn mean that 7 years of famine will follow the years of plenty. In that time the crops will fail, and many will die of hunger, unless something is done to save them.
How? What can be done?
Let Pharaoh see to it that in the years of plenty, a 5th part of all the food that grows in Egypt is set aside under your great seal, and let the food be sold to all who need it when the lean years come.
And Pharaoh gave thought to the words of Joseph, and believed them. And he said,
Since God has shown you all this, you shall see it is done as you say. Behold, I give you power over all the land of Egypt, second only to mine.
And Joseph went out over Egypt, and he gathered up a 5th part of all the grain that grew in the next 7 years, and stored it up in every city. And then the lean years came, and the people hungered. And Joseph opened all the storehouses, and in Egypt there was bread. But it was not so in the countries nearby. Because of the crop failure, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to buy grain. Joseph recognized them. The reunion was an event of rejoicing as Joseph forgave them, saying,
It was God who sent me ahead of you to Egypt to save men's lives.
And Pharaoh rewarded Joseph by welcoming his family to live in Egypt and prosper. And God promised Jacob, Joseph's father, in a vision,
Do not be afraid to go to Egypt. I will make you a great nation.
the burning bush. When Joseph ruled over Egypt in the name of the Pharaoh, his people, the Israelites, prospered and raised large families in the land. But then the old Pharaoh died, and so did Joseph. And a new Pharaoh came to power in Egypt, and he said,
Behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. They must not become any stronger.
And Pharaoh set taskmasters over them, and put them at hard labor to make their lives bitter and break their spirit. But the children of Israel remained strong, and their number increased. Then Pharaoh said to the people of Egypt,
Take every baby boy who is born to a Hebrew woman and throw him into the river Nile, but let the girl babies live.
So it was that one day when Pharaoh's daughter went down to the river to bathe, she found a little basket floating in the reeds. And in the basket was a Hebrew baby, a boy. The baby had been left there by his mother because she knew Pharaoh's daughter was kind-hearted and would not let him die. And she was right. For Pharaoh's daughter took the boy back to her palace and brought him up as her own, and the name she gave him was Moses. And Moses was a prince in Egypt. But Moses never forgot his own people. One day he saw a taskmaster whipping a Hebrew slave, and he struck down the Egyptian and killed him, and hid his body in the sand. But word came to Pharaoh, and he sent men to slay Moses. So Moses fled out of the land of Egypt and went to the east, to Midian. Moses found peace in Midian. He took a wife and helped her father tend his sheep. But in Egypt, the people of Israel groaned in their bondage and cried out for help. And God heard their cries and remembered his promise to their fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he would make them a nation with a land of their own. So it was that one day, when Moses took the sheep to graze on Mount Horeb, suddenly he saw flames of fire burst forth from a bush, but the bush itself did not burn. And then God called to him from out of the bush,
Moses! Moses!
Yes.
Do not come any nearer. I am the God of your fathers, and this is holy ground.
Yes, Lord.
I have seen the suffering of my people in the land of Egypt, and I have come down to free them and bring them out to a land flowing with milk and honey, the land of Canaan. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring them forth.
But who am I, Lord, to do such a thing?
I know. Pharaoh will not let them go unless he is forced to. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with wonders. Then will he do it.
Then Moses went away from the holy place down into Egypt land, but only after a long, long time, when God had worked many wonders. Only then did Pharaoh let the people go.
Escape from Egypt.
Moses went down to Egypt with Aaron his brother, and they went to Pharaoh, saying,
The Lord, the God of Israel, says to you, Let my people go, so they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness.
Who is the Lord? I do not know him. I will not let his people go.
And Pharaoh was so angered, he ordered the taskmasters to force the children of Israel, who were their slaves, to work still harder. So their suffering increased. And Moses turned to the Lord, saying,
Why have you done this to your people? Why did you ever send me, since I spoke to Pharaoh in your name? He has heaped misery upon us, and you have done nothing to help us.
You shall see now what I will do to Pharaoh. He will send my people forth. He will drive them out.
And Moses warned Pharaoh that God would bring great troubles down upon Egypt unless the children of Israel went free.